How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. Stocks are crashing and Bitcoin's outperforming. And there's a reason for that. China also just escalated the trade wars. Japan says that they are not happy with the way things are going right now. We also have gold hitting new all-time highs. We have some interesting things happening in the market here today. We have some more big purchasers of Bitcoin. And we have Tom Lee giving his thoughts on why he thinks Bitcoin will bounce here soon and what's going to happen with US stocks. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Stay through to the end of the video because there's a lot to cover. Maybe hit 1.5x speed. If you didn't know you can do that, just hit the little gear icon. I know sometimes I talk a little bit slowly, but check that out. Also, if you want to trade crypto, there are links underneath the video to Blowfin, CoinW, BitUniX, WEEX, BTCC. You can start trading in just a few minutes. You can get really good gains. Like, for example, on this position, average price of 55,000 at 88,000, I would be up about 60% or so. But I'm up 420% because I'm on 7x. So if you want to check that out, there's a link to it underneath the video. A couple links down there. Also, if you want to go to the Bitcoin conference at the end of May, we're about a month away. The prices continue to get higher as we get closer. You can use the link underneath the video and get 10% off. Now, the market's down. Like I said, the NASDAQ down 2.5%, S&P down 2.25%, Dow down 2.2%, yet Bitcoin is rallying. As you can see, we're starting to break out of this downtrend, right? We got rejected by this line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and now we're breaking out above. We're actually within spitting distance of breaking out here as well. You can see we got rejected right around 88.5 to 88.7 2 or 3 different times. So if we could just move up another $1,000, that would be massive. You can see we did use $89,000 as support back in the beginning of December. And then at the beginning, more like the midpoint of January, we bounced off of 89,000 2 different times. So obviously this is some resistance right now, but if we can flip that back above, break that barrier, flip into support, that would be extremely bullish. So I'd be watching that. Also, we're right at the 200-day SMA, right around 88,000. So that's pretty positive. Again, I'm watching this to see if we break out. DXY falling off of a cliff. As you can see here, let me hide these. We are just straight down recently. We were at 110 back in early January before Trump took office. We went all the way down to 97.9 yesterday or today, and now we're back at 98.4. Like, it's just fallen down so much. And this is a dollar strength index. This does not move like stocks move. This is much slower. This has a lot to do with what countries are, doing with their interest rates and money supply. So we're down 11%, and we've done that within 4 months. Like, this is a massive move. And it's not just the US that has their dollar falling. China also, their CNY falls to the weakest level since 2020 against basket of other currencies. So they're printing a lot of money over there. And this DXY kind of indicates that they think lower rates are coming here soon. So it's interesting. We have Trump saying that the Fed chair is a major loser. Let's just read this real quick. Preemptive cuts in interest rates are being called for by many, with energy costs way down, food prices substantially lower, and most other things trending down. There's virtually no inflation, which if you look at Trueflation, which measures like the real time of different websites, the cost, we're at about 1.4%, which is extremely low. With these costs trending down so nicely down, just what I predicted they would do. There can be almost no inflation, but there can be a slowing of the economy unless Mr. Too Late, a major loser, lowers interest rates now. Europe has already lowered 7 times. Powell has always been too late, except when it comes to the election period where he lowered in order to help sleepy Joe Biden, later Kamala, get elected. How did that work out? So they did cut rates like right ahead of the elections, which I don't know how much of that was political, but Trump is saying it is political. This is interesting because we're in such a weird spot with tariffs that I think if Trump laid off the tariffs, I think we would get interest rate cuts very quickly. Or if he just like finishes the tariff talk, I think we get interest rates down fairly quickly because the tariff fears would be substantially subsided. China now is vowing retaliation against countries that follow U.S. calls to isolate Beijing. China has warned it will retaliate against countries that cooperate with the U.S. in ways that compromise Beijing's interest. The threat comes as U.S. President Donald Trump's administration is reportedly planning to use tariff negotiations to pressure U.S. partners to limit their dealings with China, saying basically, choose us or choose China. China firmly opposes any party reaching a deal at the expense of China's interests. If this happens, China will not accept it and will resolutely take reciprocal countermeasures, according to CNBC. Okay, so yeah, that's why the market's scared today, to be clear. That, along with what I'm about to talk about next, like tariff fear and uncertainty is why we're seeing what we're seeing. Japan's Prime Minister Ishiba says Japan won't keep conceding in U.S. tariff talks. If Japan concedes anything or everything, we won't be able to secure our national interest. So basically, they're saying, hey, we're not going to do everything the U.S. wants because it won't be good for us. Somewhat similar to China, a little bit different because Japan's not in the same position that China is to fight so hard. But still, the market is now realizing a Japan deal is distant at best. So there's definitely some fear in the market based around that. Now, turning to crypto, a little bit of a different story. We keep on seeing positive news. Coinbase, Circle, BitGo, and Paxos are all looking to apply for bank licenses or charters. So some people would say, well, that's not good. These are crypto companies. These are going to be CBDCs. But it just shows that while there's TradFi coming into crypto, crypto's also trying to get into TradFi. There's a merging of crypto and traditional finance, which allows capital to flow much more easily, which allows these companies to grow much more easily. And a lot of these crypto companies do go buy crypto. So this could be really good for onboarding more users. We also have Deutsche Bank and Standard Chartered seeking to expand their crypto operations in the US. Okay. So again, crypto trying to get into TradFi getting into crypto. We have MSTR buying a lot of Bitcoin today. 6,556 Bitcoin. Now some people are like, well, that's not that much. They used to buy much more, billions each week. Keep in mind, this is $555 million of Bitcoin in 1 week. They bought last week as well. So yeah, that's significant. Throughout the whole year, they could buy $25 billion worth of Bitcoin. So they acquired this under 85,000. They have achieved a yield of 12.1% year to date in 2025. That's actually a significant amount of Bitcoin. Like they're going to yield less over time because they're going to get bigger. Just kind of like when you start investing, your portfolio can grow 10x, 50x, like a year at first because you're putting in money for the first time. But when you're 50, your portfolio is not going to grow that much from you putting more into it. As they get bigger, they're going to continue to buy a lot of Bitcoin, but it's going to be less compared to their total Bitcoin. So now they have 538,200 Bitcoin acquired at about 36.5 billion or about 67.7 thousand per coin. Okay, that's impressive. David Bailey explains why it's valued at what it's valued. MSTR's Bitcoin is not worth spot times the amount of Bitcoin. So you can't value MSTR just by multiplying how many Bitcoin they have by the price and saying, oh, well, MSTR is worth $47 billion. No, he's saying you have to value it based on replacement cost. Like if someone tried to go buy 500,000 Bitcoin, see how much it costs. And that's a good point. I never thought of it that way. But it would be extremely difficult. I mean, you'd have to spend a lot of money because it would push up the price so much. With MSTRA buying, a new buyer that would buy 500,000 Bitcoin would send up the price of Bitcoin very quickly. So yeah, just kind of interesting there. Now, before we go on, I want to thank today's show sponsor, MyDID. MyDID is the future of digital identity. They're a decentralized identity platform that gives users full control over their data. They remove the reliance on centralized databases, ensuring privacy, security, and seamless verification in Web3. Users can earn verifiable, decentralized badges that prove achievements, skills, and contributions. It enables trust-based interactions within communities, DAOs, and Web3 projects, and they're already integrated into several ecosystems. You can see a lot of them over on their Twitter. They are doing a airdrop right now where you can get your tokens. New SYL tokens are waiting for you. Of course, if you want to check this out, I'll leave links to it underneath the video. Of course, big thanks to MyDID for sponsoring this part of the video. Metaplanet also acquired more Bitcoin, 330 Bitcoin for about 28.2 million. So they bought this at 85.6 thousand, and they've achieved a yield year to date of 119.3%. Keep in mind, we're only 4 months into the year. So now they hold 4,855 Bitcoin, acquired at about $414.5 million, or 85.4 thousand per coin. Impressive. They continue to stack very aggressively as well. Bitcoin dominance continues to rally, 64.3%. And I think this is just due to the fact that people feel very comfortable with Bitcoin compared to other altcoins if we go into a bear market. Like if things get worse with tariffs, you want to be in Bitcoin, you don't want to be in altcoins. And some people have withdrawn from Bitcoin completely, right? They've sold, but the people that are left, they feel much more comfortable with Bitcoin. So there are some people that are just getting out of the market, and you can see like Bitcoin dominance just straight up almost surpassing this wick that we saw back in early February. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this goes, but this is the highest level that we've seen since 2021. Yeah, since early 2021. So yeah, it's been a great time to be a Bitcoin investor. I have the majority of my crypto portfolio in Bitcoin. I've said that a lot, but I still hold the majority of my crypto portfolio in Bitcoin. I think I'm 90% Bitcoin, maybe just short of that. But yeah, I prefer to use leverage rather than invest in a lot of small altcoins at this point. But I do have some of the big caps as well and a couple smaller caps. So Bitcoin's doing well, but the traditional stock market is down so much today. Nvidia down 5%, ASML down 3.5%. Gold continuing to rally. It's up at over 3,400. So gold, congrats to all the gold investors. You've done quite well, up 28.5% this year, 46% the last year. But you start looking a little bit longer time frame, and yeah, gold hasn't really done quite as much. You can see from 2020 through 2023, like barely up. It was pretty much sideways for 4 years compared to the rest of the market that's rallied really hard. So just something to consider. Not really a growth, like not really something that grows, just something that holds value, right? And that's what a lot of people use it for. Let's go over to Tom Lee. He just talked about the market and how he thinks we're past peak uncertainty, but not past maximum pain.
Pointing down 340 points on the Dow, S&P down 52. I don't know if we've shown a chart of gold that up at another $80 or something this morning. Bitcoin up almost 3.5% as well. For more on this, I'm already talking to you and I haven't introduced you. Let's bring in Tom Lee, head of research at Fundstrat, chief investment officer at Fundstrat Capital, as well as a CNBC contributor. And I don't remember whether it was you or Pump when we were talking about Bitcoin sort of stuck under 85,000 with gold going up every day. And it was either you or Pump that said Bitcoin usually follows a couple of months later, but has a much bigger move.
That was probably Pump.
Probably, yeah. He's pretty bullish.
Yes.
Have you noticed anything similar to that? I mean, that's a pretty big move. And in the past, gold's been leaving in the past near term, 2 months, 3 months, whatever, this year maybe. We have seen gold leave Bitcoin in the dust and go to new highs. Looks like it'll do 4,000 easily, right? Do you think Bitcoin eventually catches some of the same money, the same bid?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin earlier this year may have been struggling with some of the deleveraging that was happening for institutional investors.
Just selling what they could.
Yeah, selling what they could, and I think that suppressed Bitcoin, especially over weekends. But now that deleveraging is done, I think that Bitcoin is going to catch up to gold, and Bitcoin's old high was over 110,000. So I think there is a lot of room to catch up as a sort of non-dollar asset.
As for the equity markets, you think stocks are attractive, but uncertainty is still the name of the game, and it's going to persist. You think the high in the VIX, what did you say that was on April 7th, that holds?
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard to match that level of fear again. So I think we're probably past peak uncertainty. I mean, even with this Fed controversy, but I don't know if we're past maximum pain. I think that there's still risk that the economic consequences are going to cause markets to be hesitant, but it's going to be hard to match that fear again. So I think a structural low did take place.
So I don't know if I really think it's going to be hard to match. I could get a lot more. People were pretty fearful.
Yeah.
So you don't think this is going to be the absolute washout that some people are thinking, something similar to past breaks that were really significant. So let me ask you this, and just specifically, does the S&P have a closing bear market low from here? What are we down? 14% now, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, 4,800 was the low we made a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
and I think that there's a chance we could be drifting dangerously close to that again in the next couple of weeks, because there's still probably a lot of investors sitting on their hands and there's uncertainty. But on the flip side, I just think that we have to keep in mind that, one, companies are very resilient, and we'll learn about it during earnings season. But we could have a positive policy shock as well.
there was apparently...
What does that mean? Like a backing off of some of the tariffs?
Yes, we could have something that the market sees as a win. Whether it's going to be one of the 15 countries that we have a trade deal with, or a de-escalation with China, which of course overnight didn't seem like that was a possibility.
Okay, so that's very similar to what happened a couple weeks ago. If I remember right, we had it come out that the U.S. was going to be focusing on China, and a lot of the other countries were just going to get like 10% tariffs, and the market jumped 12% that day. Like, the fact is, it can change on a dime. We can go up 10% because people are so scared right now. They'll jump in heavy if they think it's something definitive.
But there is room for a positive policy shock.
Apparently, there's still another place where they trade stocks. Have I got that right? The New York Stock Exchange? Are you ringing the bell there?
Yes, our company is ringing the bell this morning at 9:30.
Okay, so Tom Lee's company has the Granny Shots ETF, and they just hit $1 billion in AUM on that. So Tom Lee is saying that we could see, Bitcoin continue to rally hard. What's so interesting to me is that Bitcoin is doing this well when the rest of the market has been doing horribly. Like, let's overlay Bitcoin. Let's go BTC USD, and we'll also do VOO, the S&P 500 index. As you can see here, let me get rid of some of this. Bitcoin has done so extremely well, even while the indices have been falling. Like, sure, they both kind of peaked and went down here. Let's actually go down to let's do the 4 hour. You can see they peaked around the same point back in What's so interesting to me is how Bitcoin's performing recently versus the S&P. And you can see that it was holding up very similar to the S&P, just with broader moves. You can see though here the S&P dumped and Bitcoin kind of stayed sideways for a while, but then it came and reached down to the S&P, and they follow almost perfectly. But you can start to see a huge outperformance since a couple weeks ago, since April 10. Bitcoin just rallying hard while the S&P did not rally as hard. And then the S&P around April 15 started to fall down, but Bitcoin has gone sideways and then actually gone up. So there has been a big change recently with Bitcoin severely outperforming. Like, let's just go to this time where we kind of bottomed here. Massive outperformance. I mean, since the 10th, Bitcoin is up 8.2% and the S&P 500 is down 4%. So there does seem to be a big change. You know, I don't want to say a decoupling event, but yeah, Bitcoin doing extremely well recently. So yeah, if you're a Bitcoin investor, you're probably pretty happy today because Bitcoin's rallying hard. Again, I would love to see us break out above this 89,000. If you're watching this market and you do want to start trading, like, pay attention to here. It might not be the worst idea to, depending on how you want to play it. If we get rejected, to short a little bit, because on some of these shorts, and I don't short the market, to be clear, I feel like that's pretty dangerous, but like you would have seen 6% move, so multiply 6% times whatever leverage you're using. But if you want to go on the long side, which is something that I'd be more likely to do because I'm an optimist and I don't like to bet against the best performing asset in the world in history, you could wait for us to break out above 89 and then long it and then see, do we see a massive pump, a lot of liquidations? You could probably get some nice gains there. But of course, approach at your own risk. Let me know your thoughts on all this underneath the video. If you want to start trading, there are links, like I said, to Blowfin, BTCC, WEEX, BitUniX, CoinW. I'll see you all in the next one.